Have you ever asked yourself, why do I really need a diagnosis? Is it clarity I seek, or am I searching for something deeper? Perhaps validation, belonging, or understanding? Keep listening. Welcome to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. If you're loving our videos, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks and enjoy this episode. Welcome, I'm your host Peter Magic. In today's episode, I'll give you a bit of a brief outline of what we're actually going to cover. So what I want you to take away from this is, what's your intention behind needing an official diagnosis of ADHD or autism, right? Because based on my own journey, this is something I've only discovered at the age of 38. So over the past year, my intuition's been taking me down this path, and I actually realized that I fell under the spectrum, of both autism and ADHD. And it's really that I've gone down this path of going down a spiritual path over the past 5 years that's actually reframed the way I look at it, right? So understanding that I fall under the spectrum based on a spiritual view of looking at it from the outside looking in has really changed how I see myself based on that, right? So the key question to the podcast today is, what's driving your desire for a diagnosis? Is it empowerment, or are you searching for something deeper, right? Whether that's through validation, belonging, or self-understanding. Firstly, I'm going to get into my journey to self-diagnosis, right? So how I actually discovered that I fell under the spectrum of both autism and ADHD, right? And, realizing those signs, because over the past year, my intuition's been taking me down this path of really looking into both autism and ADHD. And I really started looking at ADHD because of my struggles with addictions, right? And the need for that dopamine hit and the, always feeling dysregulated in my nervous system, right? And when I went down that path of really looking at ADHD and breaking it all up and realizing how, my struggles with addiction and my struggles with always needing to self-soothe, and how I struggle to stimulate my brain in the way that it craves to be stimulated, like with, working and doing these jobs that just don't stimulate my brain the way it needs to be stimulated, or having these interactions and conversations with other people that don't stimulate my brain, and I just lose interest, I lose focus on things, and I struggle to really talk about the things that I'm not passionate about, that light me up, right? My special interests. And since I've gone down this spiritual path over the past 5 years, I actually realized that I struggle to, at times, stop talking about the thing that I'm passionate about, which is, through my own experiences of overcoming abandonment, overcoming a lot of these struggles with anxiety, depression, addictions over the years, how I'm so passionate about spreading awareness to others who are going through similar things, how I can be obsessed about these topics because it's my special interest. And this really made me understand myself. How I like to express myself is so much different than how other people express themselves, right? I have my own unique signature in the way I express myself, and I realize a lot of these things is because that's based on the autism, and I just feel this need to go into a certain direction and express my energy in that way, and that's just my energy wanting to express myself. And when I struggle to let that out, and when I don't feel like other people are taking the time to really know and understand my heart, I really struggle with rejection sensitivity, and this is connected to abandonment, right? All of these things really help me understand that, both autism and ADHD, like these are all the traits and things that, that I understand now why I struggled with self-identity growing up, why I struggled to fit into society and do all the normal things that other people do out there, and why I struggle to stay in one job and do these things I'm just not passionate about, that don't light me up, right? It's because I need to express myself the way the energy wants to come through me and express. And because I've gone down this spiritual path, it's really allowed me to look at, my self-diagnosis differently, right? I look at myself from the outside looking in. Just because I have that label of autism and ADHD, it doesn't change anything. It just helps me understand myself better, right? So I'm not that label of ADHD or autism. It's just some data points to help me understand myself better, and that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just, it helps me understand why I struggled for so long, and why I need to learn to do things differently, not the way society tells me to do it, not the way other people tell me to do it. And if they're telling me who I am, it's based on the way they look at life and what they're projecting back at me. Now, if I accept that, that's me accepting that what someone else is telling me who I am. I know who I am based on my own journey, based on what I'm discovering along the way, based on all of these data points, all of these pieces of the puzzle I'm putting together, and understanding that I fall under the spectrum of both autism and ADHD. Based on this spiritual way in which I'm looking at life and looking at myself, allows me to shift out of the identity of that. That's not who I am. This is not who I am, but I need to express myself in this way because that's me expressing myself authentically, right? And the more I express myself authentically, the more I allow my inner child to express through me, the more I see those aspects of myself. It helps me understand myself. It helps me connect with those aspects of myself and allows me to gain more confidence in the way in which I want to express that energy, right? And that is so, so important. So realizing that I fall under the spectrum of both autism and ADHD has really empowered me to step into and be more authentic, right? Because it's allowed me to face the discomfort. It's allowed me to have more self-compassion and go on this path of discovering and knowing more of those parts and those aspects of myself that have suppressed themselves, that have hid behind the mask of my own ego, right? Because we all wear masks in this world, right? And when it comes to people with both autism and ADHD, right, they're the ones who mask the most because there's so much going on from a sensory point of view, right? They're so sensitive to the outer world, and we learn to adapt growing up as children. We learn to adapt to our environment, to everything that's going on around us, right? And so we do whatever we need to do in order to cope and to survive, and that's all that most of us know how to do. So a lot of us, we mask these aspects of ourselves, and these are the parts of us that are suppressed, that want to express through us, right? And when you go down this path of expressing and stepping outside of your ego shadow, right? Stepping outside of those masks and knowing that, it's uncomfortable to express and be more authentic. But at the same time, you've got to express yourself in the way that you feel, right, is aligned with that energy, right? It is aligned with your higher mind in the way in which you understand that wants to come through you. And you're also your inner child, when it's aligned with that energy and wants to come through you, you express more of that out. So you bring your personality into alignment with the mind of your soul, and that energy comes from a more authentic place, and people can feel that. right? And this is what helps you gain more self-confidence. This is what helps you actually start to transform your life, right? And this has really helped me. This has really helped me step outside of, outside of my comfort zone and take me on the journey that I'm on. And it's taken me such a long time to put together a podcast, put together this, because I care about it so much, and I just want to impact people in the world and reach those people who've struggled to have a voice and to express themselves, right? Because if I can do this, you can do this as well. And so this is what I want to do, is to empower not only myself, to empower others through expressing my energy and connecting with those who are in resonance with it. Now we're going to get into the spiritual perspective on labels, right? So when you look at society, right, there's a label for almost anything out there, right? And even though having a label helps us understand ourselves on a more deeper level, right? It helps us have more compassion, acceptance of ourselves, because now we understand we've had all of these struggles growing up. We've had all of these struggles with whether it's depression, anxiety, addictions, self-identity, why we had all these mental struggles, why we struggle to fit into society and follow the way the system's been designed, that doesn't fit us, because we experience the world differently, and we need to find ways in which we can adapt, because now we understand we fall under the spectrum, and we need to adapt in different ways, and we can't do the same thing that society tells us to do. It just doesn't work for us based on understanding that whether we have both autism and ADHD, we now understand this. So we get that this label can help us not only understand ourselves better, but know that, okay, because this works for other people doesn't mean it works for me, and you need to find out how it works for you. But if this label is something that helps you get that external validation, helps you feel more belonging in society, and now because of that, other people can accept you, other people can now validate you because of that, right? It's important to understand the intention behind why you need this label, why you need to attach to this label, right? Really connecting with the pursuit of a diagnosis to that deeper need to feel seen, heard, and understood. I would have been able to learn to not only accept that I fall under the spectrum, right, and accept this label of autism and ADHD, I would have not been able to move through the experience of abandonment, right, and really learn to know those deeper aspects of myself that I lacked a consciousness around, that I couldn't see, those parts of me that have been suppressed through all of these experiences I went through growing up, right? I wouldn't have been able to be where I am today if I didn't follow a more spiritually aligned path, right? Because it's helping me, recognize that external validation is actually fleeting, and that true healing actually comes from within, right? So when you start to understand, where these deeper needs are coming from, right? What's your intention behind, searching for, craving these external things? What's your intention behind these things? Because if you're searching for something externally to know who you are, to really truly know who you are, then you're going to continue to project a version of yourself, right, that is masking those authentic, the most authentic expression of who you are, which is, your inner child wanting to come through you and to express that energy from a more authentic place. And that is to make mistakes, to mess up. And, sometimes things will come out in a way that other people might not like. And you need to face those things. You need to allow yourself to face those things and let those things out, because the more these things come out, the more you start to then understand yourself, and the more then you can start to align yourself to the true frequency of that higher mind that you already are. And the more authentic that energy starts to express for you, right? Express through you. So that's where true transformation actually starts to happen. So having this self-awareness, and the only way you're going to have more self-awareness is if you just allow yourself to be more authentic, express whatever wants to come out through you, and, own the mistakes you make. We sometimes we say the things that other people are not going to like. We say things and it happens. We're human. We make mistakes. We say the wrong thing. We say things that don't align with how other people see life, how they see themselves, how they, it's not always going to align with our truth's not going to always align with somebody else's truth. And so we can recognize when we offend other people and we say something that they don't like, whatever it is, as long as we validate that person in how they're experiencing through whatever's coming out through us, as long as we take ownership of whatever we're projecting out, as messy as it is, the more authentic then we can become, right? The more we don't hold ourselves back. And, that is the true path to healing. That's the true path to accepting all aspects of yourself in all the messiness and all the distortion that we're working through and we're clearing up. The more we express that out, right? Because the more you do that, that's when you're taking back your true authentic power. So how do we start to live life beyond the diagnosis, right? How do we start to feel more empowered within ourselves based on knowing that, we have these challenges with both autism or ADHD, right? We know that, this human experience that we're moving through, it's going to be a lot more challenging. And so we can't do the same thing that society tells us to do. The way the structure is doesn't align with what works for us. So we need to start to learn to embrace our neurodivergence, to start to see it as a gift rather than a deficit, right? Knowing that you can't do the same things that society tells you to do. But that doesn't mean that you can't make it work for you. That doesn't mean that you can't find practical ways, to harness your strengths that you have, those abilities that you have, those innate abilities that you have. But also acknowledging, those challenges that you're facing. And yeah, it is challenging. It's more challenging for you to follow and do these things in the way society tells you to do them, because it just doesn't work for you in the way in which your brain is constantly processing your outer environment, through the way in which you've been wired through your sense, the way you experience life through your senses, all of your senses. And we all experience this differently based on ADHD and autism. We all experience it differently in different ways. So it's about learning to transform that diagnosis into empowerment and starting to shift, right, from seeking that external validation to finding that peace in self-acceptance, right? Accepting that things are more challenging for you, yes, but that doesn't mean that you can't make it work for you. That doesn't mean that you can't utilize the things that the strengths that you have, and be more vocal and be more open and honest about the support and things that you need around you so you can show up at your best. And this is exactly what I'm learning to do through this business, and knowing I have my strengths and the things that I'm great at, and I need the help and support in these other areas. And my partner helps me with a lot of things, and she has a lot of patience with me. And I wouldn't be being able to make this work without her. It doesn't mean that I'm not capable and I can't do these things. I can. I have these strengths. I have strengths that she doesn't have, but she has all these other strengths that as a partnership, it makes this business work. And so whatever it is that you're doing, you know what your strengths are. You harness those strengths and you learn, and you be more open and honest about the things that you need support in, all the areas in which you need support in. When you fall under the spectrum, and when other people know and they understand this, right? The more you express the things that you need around you, the more you can make it work for you, right? And this is when you start to, gain more self-confidence, right? It's so important to gain that confidence in yourself, knowing that you're capable of doing whatever is it that you envision. And we all have a vision, a thing that we want to create in this world, and we can all get there. But we need to learn to accept we can't always do it in the same way in which other people do it. We can't follow the same path in which other people follow, right? Because we need to learn what works for us, and that's part of the journey. And the only way you start to do that is through utilizing, tools for more self-awareness, things that can help you know and understand what works for you better. And whatever it is, whether that's through journaling prompts, meditation practices, mindfulness exercises, whatever helps you gain more clarity within yourself, right? Whatever helps you find more peace and stillness within yourself. Because when you get more to that place, the more clearer things become for you. When you're constantly in this emotional cycle and dysregulated state, it's difficult for you to make more conscious decisions, because there's so much happening. There's so much that's playing out. There's so much that keeps you unstable, and so you can't get to that place where you're making decisions that are more aligned for you, because you're constantly reacting to what's happening outside of you. That's why I encourage you to start to reflect on your intentions behind seeking external labels or diagnoses, right? Because anything that you rely on outside of yourself, right, to know and feel more secure, feel more safe within yourself, your identity, right? The more you rely on these external things, the more you rely on other people to give you that validation, to tell you who you are, the more disempowered you are. And the more you continue to project a version of yourself that doesn't come from an authentic place, right? And the more you're attaching to all of these things outside of yourself to know and feel secure in your own skin. And what all this is just a mask. It's just hiding your true authentic expression of your energy, your true authentic expression of who you are, your own truth. And the more you're going to feel trapped behind this persona, this version of yourself that's disempowered, that's seeking all of these external things, and it's doing so because you haven't gone within yourself. You haven't connected with your inner self. So the more you sit in that discomfort, the more you know yourself, the more you see the things that in which you're not, the more you You know and you understand those parts and those aspects of you that are disempowered, that have lost the connection to their true authentic power. The more you bring out these things that are not a true reflection of who you are, the more you can work through those distortions. The more then you can step into your true energy, the more you can start to embody your true energy, the more you can start to align with your higher mind, the more authentic then you can start to express your energy. Because that's really all the journey is about self-awareness, and we're always becoming more self-aware as we move along. Being our messy selves as these neurodivergent beings, we're being our messy selves. We make mistakes, we're human, we're all human beings, we make mistakes, but we learn as we move along, right? And we accept that messiness. And we learn then, when we learn to have more compassion, acceptance, and understanding for those aspects of ourselves, the more we can then have that for others, the more empathy we can have for others, the more patience we can have for others, and the more seen, heard, and understood we feel and others feel too. We're coming to the end of the episode, and what I actually want you to take away from this episode is to really reflect on, right, and ask yourself the question, what's your true intention behind seeking validation or a diagnosis? And learning to understand that true self-discovery begins inwardly, right? So labels can help guide us, but they don't define us. And learning to embrace your uniqueness and let your inner truth shine, right? All the things that I mentioned, letting all that messiness come through you, just allowing yourself to express that energy and however it wants to express itself. The more you allow your inner child to come through you, the more awareness you gain, the more you see that you didn't see before. All of those parts of you that have been suppressed, hiding behind your ego shadow. The more you know yourself. And that's really the journey. It's going to be messy. The journey to transformation and healing and growth, right, is a messy journey. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. It is part of the journey. But the more you allow yourself to express your energy, the more you step into and you become a more authentic version of yourself. And when you're reacting to the outer world, when you're reacting to others, when you're feeling disempowered, when you don't feel good, when you're projecting from that place, those are the parts and those aspects of yourself that have lost a true connection to your higher mind, to that energy, and you're bringing them back in alignment with that. That's what the journey is all about. So I really encourage you to start journaling and meditating on your intentions behind, seeking this validation, and it's going to help you go down that path of self-discovery. You're going to know and understand aspects of yourself that you didn't know and sense and see before. And I actually invite you to provide feedback and personal stories that we can share in future episodes together. Like, I really encourage you to do these things because I love listening to other people's journeys, and we might have similar experiences we've gone through, but no one's gone through the exact same experience, right? That is your journey. And the more we share these stories, the more we all feel validated in what we're moving through, because we're experiencing, based on our neurodivergence, we're experiencing life differently from a sensory point of view. And it's about sharing these stories that we all feel more seen, heard, understood. And this is why I do what I do. I want to provide that community for people to feel like they're not alone in what they're moving through. And that's really what it's all about. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from this episode, right, it's really to ask yourself this question, right? Are you embracing labels like autism and ADHD to empower yourself, or are they a way to seek the belonging and validation you crave? Because what you've got to remember is the journey to truly knowing yourself starts from within, and that requires you to follow a more spiritually aligned path. That's the path to self-discovery, to knowing and understanding yourself better. Thank you for listening to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. Until next time, embrace your magic and live authentically. I love you. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and give us a like or even a comment. It really does help so much in getting our work out there to the people who need it. We're so grateful for you being here, and we'll see you for the next episode.